So Mandy brought her new boyfriend home to dinner to meet her parents, and they were sitting there having dinner. And during dessert, she stood up. She said, "I've got a very special announcement to make. Barry has proposed, and I have said yes, and we are going to get married." And her parents looked at each other and said, "What does Barry do?" She said, "Well, he's a musician." And they said, "No, absolutely not. No way, forget it. Forget it. There is no way you are marrying this musician." And she said, no, he's really good. He's really good. As a matter of fact, you'll get to see, because he's playing a concert tonight at one of the local pubs. And I want you to come see him, and then you'll see that there's nothing to worry about. So that night they came and they sat through Barry's entire concert, sitting at a table in a pub, just looking like this. And he was so nervous playing his guitar. But after the concert, he came to the table kind of sheepishly, and they got up and they threw their arms around him and they said, "Welcome to the family." And she said, "You see, I told you there was nothing to worry about." And her parents said, "Yes, we know, because now that we've seen him on stage, we know that he's not a musician." Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. And here you can bring your brokenness and your personal glow, your fatigue and your energy, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated, where compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. It's the time in the service when we share our joys and sorrows from this past week. I'd like you to take a moment, a quiet moment, and think about if there is something special from this past week or something that's on your mind about this week to come. Something that you'd like to share with the congregation. And when you do, you are welcome to come up and light a candle.
So, hi, I'm Meg. I was so busy thinking about what I was going to say that I went straight for the candles. 2 weeks ago, on my way home from church, my mother called me and asked what I was doing, and I said I was driving. And Luther was actually driving. So she said, "Well, call me when you get home," and then I knew something was going on. Then when I get home, she says, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "No," and I did. And she told me that my brother-in-law passed away. He was only 55, so it was really a shock. So I just wanted to, pause in spirit of Ben, my brother-in-law. He passed away in Texas. His memorial is going to be on the 31st of August. We're going to go to Albany for his memorial. But on a lighter note, they did just get a puppy which is, she's beautiful. A little beagle, she's only 8 weeks old, and they haven't named her yet. And so I'm waiting to do some FaceTime with the puppy. So, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I have some good news, and it's about somebody who's not here. Two people, actually, who are not here. One is Shelley Collins, and the other is Nadja. I nominated them for a special YWCA award, and they will receive it. So that is cool. Both of them will get the same awards. It's because they have helped each other. It's not about the fact that not all of Nadja's past, which she would like to put behind her. It's what she's done since then, and what Shelley has done for her, and what she has done for Shelley and other people. It's a beautiful story, and I'm glad it's going to be told. They couldn't be happier. For that, anyone else?
I'm going to light a candle for one of our neighborhood families that lost one of their children this week. And another one for those joys and sorrows that we are still holding inside and that we are not yet ready to share. On the back of my clipboard, which I always use, I've got this bumper sticker that says Jimmy Eat World, which is not a political campaign, but it is a rock and roll band. And last night, Elizabeth and I, we took the kids to see this rock band, and we had a really nice time. And then I was showing up today. I was like, oh, that's right. I always have this sticker on my clipboard. We haven't necessarily heard of Jimmy Eat World. That's all right. But last month, I took Elizabeth and the kids. Not last month, in June. I took Elizabeth and the kids to see James Taylor in concert. I'll start that over. Last month, I took Elizabeth to see Lionel Richie in concert. And it was very romantic, and he was a lot of fun. And then about a week later, I saw some discount tickets to see James Taylor. And I said to Elizabeth, so, is it time? Do we go? And she went, I guess we've put it off long enough. And that made sense, because I've seen fire and I've seen rain, but I never thought I'd see James Taylor in a concert. And the seats were so cheap that I realized, rather than scramble for childcare, we could just bring the kids and I would babysit them myself during the show. Now, there are certain questions that a parent should expect, like, what existed before the universe? And if the world is turning, how come we don't fall off? But I'd never, in all my wild imagination, I'd never envisioned myself having to answer the question, who is James Taylor? How many of us here are asking this question right now? Okay, so we've all, okay, it's all right. We'll figure it out. I don't know. He's like Jackson Browne with training wheels. Or like Leonard Cohen with water wings. Like, this is where you learn to swim, in the pool of singer-songwriters. I take my kids to concerts. That's my church, my religion. Ritualistic howling to rock and roll. Or in this case, ritualistic meowing to mellow folk music. A concert is a good time to teach an essential lesson of fatherhood. Life is about experience, not about comfort. If you want to be comfortable, you go to the concert, you get a hot dog for your belly, you get a drink for your thirst, then you go use the potty, and by the time you've stood in those 3 lines, the show is over. Or you can cowboy up, stay on your feet, shout your head off, live the experience, and then go home and be comfortable in your sleep. The only part of a concert that's supposed to be comfortable is your shoes. It doesn't matter how you look, unless your fashion choices make me late, in which case we've got a serious problem. So going to this concert, leaving home at 6, getting back at 12, we actually managed to do the full checklist of a family road trip vacation in just 6 hours. There were the whiny kids, the car snacks that spill, fiddling with the knobs and dials. You've got the air conditioners and the windows to keep mommy's volcano from erupting. You've got the stereo to keep daddy's power plant from going into atomic meltdown. We skipped the part about don't make me turn this car around, since that would have brought us back to the question, who is James Taylor? Now I know the answer. He's everything except a video game, which is what you kids have done with every unsupervised second of this summer, so pipe down, we're doing this. You know, there's an element to the concert that you can't get from a recording. You've got your analog record, your digital CD, your remastered, streaming, whatever. But none of the audio recording gets the eyebrows. And they're a pretty important part of the song. In the concert setting, you can read lips, and that's a good way to finally figure out that missing line of lyric. But more important, you can read the person's face. And the movements of their eyebrows add another dimension to the story that's being told. And say, oh, now I get that line. It's inquisitive. I'd always thought it was just sensitive. James Taylor has always had great eyebrows. And as his audience has lost some of their distance vision, his hairline has adapted by receding to make it easier to read his eyebrows from far away. Eyebrows are the unsung heroes of communication, the hard-working midwives of understanding. Mouths and ears can transfer facts, but communication is more than information. It's also affirmation or subjugation. It's a negotiation of relative social position. Like in some conversations, you take turns being the important speakers. Or maybe one person dominates by doing all of the talk. Or dominates by saying, well, and making the other person spill their guts. An interrogation. Defenestration. That's not part of this message. I just put it in there in case anyone was getting hypnotized by all these words that rhyme with Asian. Anyway, regardless of the words we speak, It's the eyebrows that express whether it's an affirmation, domination, alienation, whatever. With interrogation, you don't have to speak at all. You just shoot one eyebrow up, and they'll tell you everything. As a matter of fact, I think that we come out of many interactions with a clearer recollection of somebody's eyebrow expressions than our memory of the words that were actually said. Sometimes you'll hear somebody say, "I think that talk went well," or "we really connected." And that means the other person's eyebrows consented, and you can assume that they agreed with your political opinions. Doubtful. When I hear someone say, "I think that talk went really well," my eyebrow reflexively hops up like this. I can't help it. My youngest son has become obsessed with a video game. Not just playing it, which is just trying not to get caught by these animatronic monsters, but also the whole mythos of the monsters' individual backstories and motivations. And he has become concerned, even alarmed, that I might not understand the danger that these monsters pose, while I worry about a zillion other silly things. And he's worried that as an old-fashioned dad, I might not be able to properly empathize with these video game monsters and why they need to chase his character around. He may be right. I come from the era of Pac-Man, where the ghosts chase this little yellow chomping circle in a maze. And you didn't have to wonder about the green ghost's childhood trauma or the pink ghost's repressed identity. You just ran from them, except without legs. You didn't even wonder whether Pac-Man was running, flying, swimming. You just go. But that's an insensitive Pac addict from the past. Today's video games are different. So he tells me all this stuff, and I nod and remind myself that when I was a kid, memorizing fictional facts about comic book superheroes helped my brain to later be able to retain fictional facts about Shakespeare characters and systematic theology. So maybe this video game can do that for him. The stuff he's learning about in school, about frogs and Franklin's, fractions, and Franklin Roosevelt, the brain can't really retain that stuff because it's not chasing you around trying to eat you. But being stalked by pixelated predators, that's a pressing concern with an important message. People are going to try to hurt you, not because of anything you did, but because someone hurt them in the past, and that person is not within convenient reach right now. Anyway, so he rattles off all of this stuff, which my brain has no file folder for, so it's all just straight into the recycle bin. And I nod politely and grunt. While squinting in a way that clearly conveys, I'm pondering this information. Because I need to non-verbally communicate. This is important to you, and you are important to me. And that, you are important to me, is perhaps the most significant thing that we can communicate. But it can't come from your mouth. When it comes from your mouth, it just sounds kind of whatever. It has to come from the other parts of your face while the other person is talking. To communicate, you are important to me. Maybe that's what eyebrows are for. And by eyebrows, I don't mean this thin strip of fur. I really mean the nakedness of the human face all around the eyes. Whether we are male or female, we've got this part kind of wide open. The absence of fur that emphasizes the presence of these little tufts. Because eyebrows can say things like, I am listening. I am concerned. I am confused. Please tell me more. And those are all ways of expressing you and what's important to you are important to me. And to make that point even clearer, eyebrows can express all that without having to interrupt. Some people can also do it by wiggling their ears. But that kind of gives the impression that you don't take the other person very seriously. Like if you were talking and I went, be like, I think you're really thinking about your own ears there. Not really what I'm saying. Elizabeth, my bride, has tiny eyebrows. And they're naturally tiny. They're not plucked. She has tiny eyebrows and a high forehead. And something about her face seems to communicate to strangers, tell me your problems. Especially the really embarrassing ones that you would keep a secret from a bartender and a priest. Someone asked me recently about how she chose to be a primary care physician. And I said, no, she didn't choose that. People have always come up and told her what's wrong with their body. Even when she was a teenage clerk at a video store, people would come up and say, I've got this pain right here that flares up whenever whatever. And she would say, well then, cut down on soft drinks. And instead of renting this video, why don't you go for a walk? So now she's a doctor, and it's the same thing, except now she's got a prescription pad. So someone comes in and says, my such and such hurts when I such and such, which is actually kind of funny because she's female, so most of her patients don't know she's a doctor. They just think she's this woman in the room. And they say this stuff, and she says, yeah, sounds like you need to cut down on your soft drinks and take a long walk. And then they say, well, isn't there a pill that could do the same thing? And she says, oh, right. I'm also canceling 6 of your 39 prescriptions. And then their face is sad. And then her face non-verbally expresses, your problems are important to me. And that's why I'm canceling the medications that help you to ignore your problems. Now your problems can be important to you also. And they know she cares. And in many cases, they do feel better. And she can do this with her tiny eyebrows, like eyebrows that you can't even see on a Zoom screen. You really have to be right there in person. The human face, all of these sensory organs jumbled together, and it's a real Pablo Picasso roll of the dice how they're arranged, but I think having the eyes above the mouth was a great idea, since otherwise we would need much bigger eyebrows to keep food from falling into our eyes. As it is, men grow mustaches to keep tears from flowing into their food. Maybe that's how evolution encourages social cohesion. Like, if you alienate the tribe, you'll need a big mustache, or the food that you eat alone will be salted with bitter tears. You don't even have to shower the people you love with fancy words. You can just use your eyebrows to show them you care. You see, shower the people, that's a sign. I got sidetracked, but don't worry, I'm definitely getting back to that James Taylor story. My decision to babysit the kids during this concert turned out as badly as you might have predicted. I got jabbed in the ribs every 20 seconds. Is it almost over? Is it almost over? Jabbed in stereo with Malcolm on one side and William on the other. The good news is, at least it wasn't a Jackson Browne concert, because if you poke me in the ribs when he's playing, you're going to just lose that finger. And also, when it's all said and done, at least we hadn't wasted all that time and energy dragging the kids to see the Grand Canyon. Look, kids, we finally made it. The Grand Canyon. Is it almost over? Not for another few billion years. This is geology. Having done some advanced research about Taylor's recent set list, I had decided that we did not have to stay for the whole thing. We would leave right after he sang a song called Your Smiling Face. And it just turned out to be his second to last song. But before singing it, he smiled at us. And we smiled at him, because that's what humans do. It's part of our nonverbal communication. Like when a kindly, gentle, elderly fellow smiles at you, it's contagious. The smile gets shared. And looking out at all of these smiling faces, he's saying, whenever I see your smiling face, I have to smile myself, because I love you. And that moment was deeper than the Grand Canyon. And in that shared moment, this whole hectic family road trip came together and made sense. Do we have any announcements today? All right, well then, before we extinguish the chalice, if there is anybody here who is still asking the question, who is James Taylor? He's not here. But I am. I'm going to share one of his songs on the piano. So if you know this, you are welcome to sing along. We're going to do a couple of verses. This is called Fire and Rain. Yeah, I gotta figure out how we sing. Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. Just can't remember who to send it to. Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Seen sunny days that I thought would never end. Seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. I woke in my mind to an easy time, my back turned toward the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. There's hours of time on the telephone line to talk about things to come. Big dreams and fine machines and pieces on the ground. Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Seen sunny days that I thought would never end. Seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. All right. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice. They are printed in your leaflet. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire. Together we have sanctified this space. You have found strength and comfort here.
Is your mic on, John?
If you have found strength and comfort here, share some out there. Remember that you are blessed and you are a blessing and you are not alone.